Good day, everyone. Welcome to our great books lecture on Cry the Beloved Country, written by Alan Paton. This novel stands as one of the most powerful literary responses to racial injustice and moral crisis in 20th century South Africa. Today, we will explore how this work functions as fiction, social critique, and ethical reflection, and why it deserves its place among the great books. Cry the Beloved Country tells the story of a black South African priest navigating a society fractured by racial inequality, poverty, and fear. Although fictional, the novel reflects real historical conditions in South Africa just before apartheid was formally institutionalized. Peyton's narrative is driven by a deep commitment to reconciliation, justice, and shared humanity, making the novel both emotionally resonant and morally urgent. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to identify the major elements of fiction in the novel, explain how these elements construct meaning, apply selected literary approaches to interpret the text, and demonstrate why Cry the Beloved Country qualifies as a great book, a work that continues to spark across time and culture. Although Cry the Beloved Country is a work of fiction, it does not escape reality. Instead, it confronts reality directly. Published in 1948, the same year apartheid became official policy, the novel uses fiction as a moral lens. Peyton combines narrative artistry with a social critique, showing that fiction can be a powerful tool for ethical reflection and national self examination. To understand how the novel achieves its moral force, we now turn to the elements of fiction. Beginning with characterization, Peyton's characters are not merely individuals, they function as moral and social representations within a deeply divided society. Stephen Kumalo is a dynamic character whose journey is defined by suffering, compassion, and faith. James Jarvis undergoes a moral awakening, moving from ignorance to ethical responsibility. Absalom Kumalo is a tragic figure, representing youth lost to systemic injustice. Arthur Jarvis functions symbolically as the conscience of the nation. Together, these characters embody social positions, ethical choices, and the human cost of injustice. From a moral, philosophical perspective, the novel asks fundamental ethical questions. Kumalo represents Christian humanism and forgiveness, while Jarvis' transformation illustrates responsibility that transcends race. Peyton challenges readers to ask, how should human beings respond to suffering and injustice? His answer is clear. Morally, morality must be expressed through active compassion, not passive belief. The setting of the novel is deeply symbolic. Dotcheni, the rural village, represents neglect, erosion, and moral decay caused by abandonment. Johannesburg, the urban center, represents crime, alienation, and the breakdown of families. These places are not neutral locations. They reflect the moral conditions of society itself. Setting in this novel reflects economic inequality, social disintegration, and ethical erosion. Peyton uses place not merely as background, but as symbols. The land itself becomes a silent witness to injustice and suffering. From a sociological or Marxist perspective, the novel exposes how structural inequality shapes human behavior. Urban poverty produces crime, not moral weakness. Land erosion parallels economic exploitation. Absalom's crime is not only personal, it is systemic, produced by unjust social condition. The novel follows a dual plot structure. Kumalos' journey is one of loss, endurance, and faith. Jarvis' journey moves from ignorance to moral awareness. These parallel narratives allow Peyton to explore suffering from both black and white perspective. This structure emphasizes shared humanity across racial lines. Both families suffer loss, both must confront moral responsibility. The narrative moves slowly but deliberately toward the possibility of reconciliation. The novel presents multiple conflicts: individual versus society, faith versus despair, justice versus mercy, and tradition versus modernity. At its core, the novel asks a difficult question: can forgiveness exist within a deeply unjust system? Peyton's Christian worldview shapes the novel's tone and message. The biblical cadence of the narration, the emphasis on forgiveness over revenge, and the belief in redemption through moral action all reflect Christian humanism. Jarvis' help to Dotshenny is not charity, it is an ethical obligation. The novel is told through third person omniscient narration, allowing readers access to multiple perspectives. Its lyrical, biblical prose, marked by repetition and rhythm, reinforces both lament and hope. The narrative voice universalizes suffering, making the story morally urgent rather than merely local. From a formalist perspective, meaning is created through structure and language. The repeated phrase, "Cry the beloved country," functions as a refrain. Biblical syntax elevates moral seriousness. Symbols such as land, light, and journey reinforces the novel's central theme. The central themes of the novel include racial injustice, broken families, forgiveness, moral responsibility, and hope amid suffering. Peyton suggests that a nation can only be healed through justice, empathy, and moral courage. Why this is a great book? Cry the Beloved Country is a great book because it unites aesthetic beauty with ethical urgency. It addresses universal human concerns and remains deeply relevant in discussions of race, justice, and reconciliation. Today, as you reflect on this novel, consider this question: what lessons does Peyton ask us not only to understand, but to live by? So let's try to answer and reflect as we read the novel. Thank you.